Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad that you're joining us again this evening. We're glad for people like you that are interested in the issues that are happening in our cities. And we cover 9 different cities in Northwest Community Television's viewing area. This year, there will be an election in one of our cities. Golden Valley is going to have an election this year. So we will be helping you learn about the different candidates that are running for the two city council seats and for the mayor during the month of October. We'll be covering the issues for Golden Valley that are important to the candidates and that they're talking to people about. But for those of you in the other cities, if these issues are ones that are of concern to you, take time to call your city hall or your mayor or city council and find out what your city is doing on these issues. And if you're from Golden Valley, do take the time to write down the candidates' email and phone number so that you can be in contact with them. And tonight, we've got candidates for the City Council. We've got Hattie Bonds, who's running as a City Council candidate, Paul Scofield, running as a City Council candidate, and Steve Schmidtegall, who is an incumbent and running for re-election. So we're very happy to have all of you with us this evening. And we'll start out with Hattie. So Hattie, I talked with you a little bit ahead of time and sent you information, but rather than my introducing you, I'm going to let you introduce yourself out to particularly the people in Golden Valley. If you can tell them a little bit about your background and how that's prepared you to be on your city council.
Sure. My name is Hattie Bonds, and I am a retired public school administrator and old science teacher, I always say. So, being in public education has really prompted me for a lot of things and prepped me for a lot of things, because what teachers do and public school administrators do is we prepare everybody for the world all the way across the board. And so, we have to be very bright and very flexible. So I think being flexible and being willing to learn and being willing to be diplomatic and to compromise and to be able to have a deep discussion of communication is really critical in these days and these times. And I think being in education has offered me many opportunities in which to do that. So I think that's kind of the gist of me and who I am. Everybody knows a teacher, everybody knows a principal, everybody knows an assistant principal, an associate superintendent of some sort. So, people have those little places that they can put you in, and you pretty much, if you've been a successful one, and I had over 37 years in public education, so there must be some depth there in some sort. And the fact that I just love people, and I especially love children, and that's kind of the heart of me, is children and looking out for them and trying to make sure that we're always including them in all of the decision making that we do. As we get into our conversation, I'll tell you why the community center is such near and dear to my heart.
And then how long have you lived in the city of Golden Valley?
I have lived in Golden Valley about 13, 14 years, so been there a little while. But if you look at my neighbor across the street, who has been there since she was a very small child, and I'm not supposed to tell you how old she is, but she always gets on to me about that. She's constantly giving me the history of Golden Valley. She talks about Golden Valley when it had no streets. It was pretty much all wooded area, and it's just so wonderful to hear those stories. But I haven't been there that long, but just long enough to kind of get a grasp of the people and a grasp of the community. It's a lovely, lovely community.
Now, I'm having all of our guests tonight talk about some of the issues that I read off of people's websites and the information that they had available, and some of the issues that I asked them to be prepared and ready to speak on, which the ones that are important to them or the ones they're hearing about from other people would be current economic redevelopment projects might be one of them, housing projects that were completed now or will be in the future of Brookfield Community Center, which you've brought up, and then what values are important to maintain for the future of Golden Valley, And how has Golden Valley used tax increment financing in the past, and what would they like to see happen in the future? Increasing communications between council and citizens, how can this be accomplished? And how they would balance keeping city services and tax increases. So these are some of the ideas that I threw out ahead of time, and they might have some additional ones they're going to add. But let's start out with you, Hattie, with issues that you had picked. So what's the first issue you'd like to talk about?
I think the importance of maintaining the future of Golden Valley. So values.
Okay.
The values. That's what's important, and that's why I was talking a little bit about my neighbor who's been there forever and ever. And I think that's kind of the critical piece, is that we have to talk to all of the community members. We have to learn about all of our senior citizens, our middle-aged people, our young people that are moving in with the small children. We have to listen to even the youth that are in Golden Valley, and figuring out ways how to engage all of them in the work that needs to be done there to keep our community wonderful as it is, but yet maintaining that kind of quaintness of it that it has. So those are kind of the track that I'm going down for, is being able to communicate and commit.
Sure. What are some of the things in the past that kind of reflect the values that you think are important?
Well, and I'm going to just say this. These are not necessarily all my values, because I think as a person who is a candidate for public office, we can't get stuck so much in what we believe. We have to really be open-minded to take a look at, what are all the constituents saying, and somehow provide a balance within there. And so some of the things that people had talked about in some of the surveys when I went to some of the city council meetings in which you were sitting on, they talked about how do we maintain Golden Valley yet move into the future, because people were quite disgruntled because of some of the housing development. They were utilizing a lot of the land in a way, and people like the wide open spaces. That's why some people had moved there. And some people wanted to just see the houses just continue to be placed in there, as they call them. When are you going to mansion up? Okay, so you have these mansions sitting in these around in the neighborhood, along with the little quaint cottages, so to speak. And so therein lies the kind of balance that one would want to really kind of take a look at and figure out a way how to kind of please everybody, maybe some compromises here and otherwise. And I was telling them when I went out and we talked about that, how wonderful it is. I have some boys, little boys, and they're like 6, 8, and 12. And it was so nice for them to see from the beginning how these homes are built. And so we were enjoying it, actually, personally, in our family, we just loved it. But I noticed when we went to the council meetings, everybody was not very excited about that, all of the construction.
And then another issue that you think you'd like to talk about?
The other issue is the community center. It's going to be rebuilt and redone, and everybody's input and all that. And so I just think, for me, an old public school administrator and teacher, it's really critical. One of the things that I see missing sometimes in community centers in our community, even though we have a great community, it's wonderful, is that we do enjoy the senior citizens and we look out for them, but I would like to see us create more programs and build in a way that the youth can be more engaged in these that particular community center, I will say, because we do have some that really
And now I want to give you enough time so that you can tell the people out there why they should vote for you. When they go into the voting booth on November 3rd, why should they check your name?
Okay, I think they should check my name because I'm the type of person who's flexible, open-minded, committed. I'm a very good listener, and I think these are some of the critical key pieces that a person in this role, serving the community as a community public servant, should have. We should be able to utilize not just what we know, but also be able to figure out how we build upon that from all of the voices within our community. So Mark Hattie Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Vote for me for City Council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move along to Paul Scofield.
Hi.
And he's gotten the same questions ahead of time, just like Hattie did. So first, can you tell people out in our wider audience, especially pointed at Golden Valley, a little bit about yourself and your background and how that's prepared you to be on your city council?
Sure. I grew up in the area, and I went to Robbinsdale Senior High and Carl Sandburg Junior High, and attended with a lot of Golden Valley students, of course.
Right.
My own children went to Hopkins and are going to Hopkins schools. My daughter is 15 years old, and she's a sophomore at Hopkins right now. I've got a 19-year-old son who's attending the University of Minnesota now. He graduated from Hopkins, and an older daughter who's 21, and she graduated from Hopkins as well. After I graduated from Robbinsdale Senior High, I went on to the University of Minnesota, got a degree in physics and math, and went on to the U of Illinois and got a doctorate in mathematics. And since 95, I've been working in the Twin Cities area for Twin Cities businesses like General Mills, which is in Golden Valley, in case people didn't know. I've been working in with those businesses, helping to build computer systems that are financial reporting systems and control systems. And I have also, for the past couple years, been working serving as treasurer of Golden Valley Lutheran Church. And so I've got some experience spending other people's money and spending other people's money as though it's my own money. And I think that that's an important aspect to bring, an important trait to bring to the work of community service. I'm also very much inclined to put us first in Golden Valley, and to be sure to vote on issues in a way that considers the most important and fundamental roles of Golden Valley, and not just nice amenities, but such important issues as fire and safety, police safety. And I have been living in Golden Valley since 1998, and my kids have been growing up here, obviously, and I intend to stay for a long time and want to make Golden Valley the best place it can possibly be.
And then we'll move on then to the different issues that are highlighted in your mind and that you've picked up as you're doing your campaigning. What issue would you like to start with?
I guess I'd also like to talk about the community center. I've definitely walked around and experienced the creaky floors in the upstairs of the Brookview Community Center. But I'm a bit concerned about the timing of the development of the project. I think that it's all well and good for us to do studies and architectural studies, but I think that the present council could have been more forthcoming in plans for how they actually expect to pay for the community center, and what kind of plans that are they going to use very creative financing, because prior attempts at expanding the community center or perhaps rebuilding a pool have not met with uniform community referendum. We actually had presented such financing proposals as referenda, and they did go down to defeat. So I'm concerned that since the City Council hasn't put forth a referendum, then they must have some other creative way that they intend to finance the community center. I think we should hear about it before an election rather than after an election.
And then another issue from either the ones that I sent you on an email or that you thought of yourself.
I'm still very concerned about the Botno line, about the proposal to have the Botno line go through Theodore Wirth Park and a part of Golden Valley. I am concerned because the proposal may very well include having one of the stops and so one of the stations in the park area. And so I have a feeling that that's going to encroach upon Golden Valley's park environment. Another aspect of the proposal that concerns me is just the amount of potential crime and safety risks generally that we might be putting ourselves that our neighbors, especially close to the rail line, might be threatened by.
Oh, okay.
And for instance, in the news lately, there was a shooting in one of the train stations, and there was also a mugging a couple weeks prior. And one aspect of that is that when those kinds of crimes occur at those stations, it isn't the Metropolitan Transit Police that need to show up. It is, in fact, the municipal police that need to show up. And so that means that Golden Valley Police would need to show up because Worth Park is completely within Golden Valley.
Right, right.
And so, and for that matter, also the other proposed station location by the firehouse is also in Golden Valley. And were anything bad to happen at either of those stations, our police would need to be present. And of course, our police are going to need to monitor those areas even more intensively than they have in the past.
Right.
Because there will be more traffic, and I'm concerned about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, give you some time to tell the people out there, the voters of Golden Valley, why should they vote for you when they go into the election booth on the 3rd?
Well, I'm Paul Scofield, and I would like you to check your vote next to Paul Scofield on November 3rd. I will put Golden Valley first. I will put us first in all the considerations that are before us in the City Council. Again, please vote for me, Paul Scofield, on November 3rd.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to Steve Schmidtegall. And you already know that I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself or tell our audience more about yourself, your background, and then how it maybe has already prepared you to be on the City Council, but the kind of linking the two together.
Thank you. I was appointed to the City Council, as you might recall, 3 years ago to serve the second year of Mike Freiberg's 4-year term, and I was appointed by the council that was then sitting. I was very gratified to accept that appointment because I had been on the City Planning Commission for 9 years before that, and I saw it as an opportunity to follow some of the work that we did on the Planning Commission forward through the City Council. I found that first year gratifying enough that I ran then in a special election that was held 2 years ago for the remaining 2 years of the term. Now I'm out running for a full 4-year term to be able to continue my service to the city. Most of my public service for 12 years I served as various PTSO and PTSA offices in the District 281, more or less following my children through that school district. I have a architecture degree and a Master of Business Administration. I'm in the building construction industry, so it was a good experience for me being on the Planning Commission, and it was great to move with the various things we did on Planning Commission into City Council. 2 years ago when I was running, I talked to people about the great developments that were coming down the pike. At that time we had the 394 project, which was going to provide a variety of apartment types and senior housing as well as memory care. We had Arcata, which was going to provide luxury apartments, and we had the Tiburon, which was going to provide a living option for young single people. Well, I'm a little bit regretful to tell you that the only one of those projects that's been built since that time is the Arcata project. It's been tremendously successful. They I think they're 80% occupied now and rising. But these other projects have come back. 394 is back. We've got a variety of other housing projects. Hello took the place of the Tiburon project, took that site, the old bowling alley. So I would like to continue to follow these projects as they come to fruition in the next couple of years. I talked 2 years ago about targeted development or intelligent development. I talked about collaborative government, and I talked about keeping Golden Valley standard of living high without raising taxes. And to this point, we've been successful in all those things. And earlier this year, we had a strategic planning session with the current city council, and I was very pleased to see that the strategic planning session ended up with the city council agreeing to work on 4 items, which are very similar to my 3. It was targeted development, collaborative government, fiscal responsibility, and care for the infrastructure or infrastructure repairs. So those are the 4 things that the current city council has agreed are very important to work on moving forward. And those are the things that I think are important too.
And how long have you lived in Golden Valley?
I've lived in Golden Valley for 30 years, and my children attended the District 281 system. They've moved on to other careers and outside of Golden Valley.
Right. And now we'll move on into issues that you'd like to highlight for our audience about what's happening in Golden Valley.
Well, I noticed a number of these things, not surprisingly, are interrelated. Economic redevelopment projects, housing projects, the Brookview Community Center. I know the Brookview Community Center, as mentioned earlier. Let me just start with that. We are hearing a variety of things from a number of different residents about the community center. First of all, the community center, I believe, does have to be replaced.
Okay.
And it's an aging structure. I believe it's outlived its useful life. I admit that I fell in love with the $38 million option, which was presented by a community task force made up of, I think, 15 or 20 residents. It had to me, it had a good blend of amenities, and it was also a good replacement for the existing structure. But as it has been suggested earlier, that's a real tough pill for the city to swallow at this point. We are finishing up the pavement management plan. The plan is to replace every bit of Golden Valley streets, and that's been a great program. We have some of the best streets in the metropolitan area because of that program. Right now, we're down to a point where we have only a few miles of streets left. And what we've been able to do over the years to manage costs, in lean years, we do a shorter mileage of streets, and in robust years, we can do more.
Right.
So that makes it a little difficult to just pay for a community center when we're finishing up this street program. What I have been supporting is the $15 million option, which is basically I see it as 2 things. One is it's a replacement of the existing building, but it's also, in my mind, phase 1 of a larger community center. So there are some people that want all or nothing. What I want is some now and some later. So,
yeah, a lot of different opinions on how it should be done, right?
Right. Oh, yes. There are people that want a swimming pool and splash pads, and I think those are, and other amenities for youngsters, and I think those are really those are good ideas. They're desirable, but they do significantly increase the cost of the facility.
And then is there another issue you'd like to touch briefly?
Well, increased communications between council and citizens. I know there's been some, there was some issues with that around the time that I was appointed to the city council, and as a result, when I ran 2 years ago, that was one of my 3 important themes is collaborative government. And I believe we've been fairly successful in that. As I mentioned, the city council has come together and agreed on those 4 points of the strategic plan. We've had excellent communication with our staff. As you know, we've consolidated staff a little bit under Mr. Burt. We took the building department and the planning department, combined them into one called physical development, hired a new director of physical development. We just hired a new city manager who started this past Tuesday. So, and he's very good. Tim Cruikshank, formerly from Anoka City, they don't call him city manager up there, city administrator for Anoka. and he's going to do a great job.
Okay, now I'll give you time to tell our Golden Valley voters why they should vote for you on the election day.
Well, back in the 2 years ago when we had the forum that the League of Women Voters put on for candidates, I invited voters to join me in targeting development for Golden Valley to increase fiscal vitality, to increase options for people, for living options, so people can live in Golden Valley for the entire arc of their life if they want to. I invited them to join me in collaborating better, City Council collaborating with residents, collaborating with staff to govern the city more effectively and more smoothly. And I invited them also to join me in maintaining Golden Valley's high standard of living without significantly raising taxes. And we've been very successful at those things in the intervening years. And I would urge residents of Golden Valley to vote for me, Steve Schmidtegall, so that we can continue that work.
Okay, I want to thank all of you for taking time out of what I know are busy schedules when you're campaigning to share your thoughts and your ideas with the people here out in our wider audience, but also particularly in Golden Valley. And I do hope that you took down their phone numbers and their emails and that you are in contact with them, because it is important for candidates to hear from the people that they're working with. So I give each of you just a real brief final thought. Anybody have something that you thought, oh, I wish I would have said that?
Well, I'll say what you just said. We just can't have people standoffish from the government, from being public servants. I think we have to make sure that as many people as we can get engaged in government and running the cities and running their neighborhoods. I mean, the local issues are really, it's what makes the local neighborhood click.
One of the delights I've had of being on the City Council is I also serve as a liaison to Golden Valley Historical Society. And I'm just thrilled that the Historical Society is nearing the completion of the development of an exhibit that's going to tell the story of Golden Valley. And Golden Valley has a great story, and I don't want to spill the beans because in a year that's going to open in the new museum edition, and I think people and residents are going to be very excited.
Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I would just like to say that I'm gratified by the fact that the City Council has managed to keep down taxes fairly well in the recent past, and congratulate Mr. Schmidtegall on doing that, and pledge to do an even better job in the future. Thank you.
We'll ask you to tune in next week because we'll have some more candidates for the City Council. There are 2 spots open, 6 people running, and then 2 candidates for mayor. So we hope you'll join us again. Bye.